What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are providing you a state of the market and stock picks for April 6, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as I provide you weekly and daily updates to keep you prepared for the day in the week ahead. So let's get right into state of the markets. We have one big situation that is currently going on. Today, we actually had some Fed members come out and speak about being extremely hawkish on the rate raises. Now, this isn't something new, but they started bringing up removing the backstop and bond buying, and that it could be something that is brought up in the next month. So this is what is interesting because the market, in my opinion, exploded to where it is currently at because we have the backstop. And I think if it wasn't for that, I believe we still would have ran up. But more so, I think what would have happened was it would have been a lot more choppier than it was over the past couple weeks. But being said, from this point, the meeting notes, although I don't believe it's going to provide enough detail to show as far as why asset buying is going to stop in May. The Fed do like to talk a lot. Other members like to talk a lot about different things. But there are a lot of different Fed members that kind of been on the same page for this as far as essentially removing that backstop. In my opinion, I don't think it would be done until the Russia-Ukraine thing settles down, because of the fact of supply constraints, and we're seeing that even in Tesla. One of the very best companies out there is having production issues, and so with that being said, how is the little guy going to get affected by this? And so I don't believe the stopping of purchasing bonds is going to happen anytime soon. There are other workarounds. They've discussed other workarounds for this, but I think the Fed is trying to drive the market back down somewhat. I talked about this the other day, that typically you'll get a pretty decent pullback in the market just before earnings. This is a pretty normal move that does happen before bigger earnings start happening towards the back half of this month. And what I'm essentially talking about is big tech. Big tech is what people look for in earnings. They want to know what they are doing because big tech has essentially been driving the market for a couple of years now. And so, being said, we want to see how they do. We want to see how sanctions affect them. We want to see how lockdowns are affecting them. If they are not affecting them, then it's not really going to make a difference because these big companies are in the positions that they are because of how they respond and adjust to the environment in which they're in. And this is why how they become these big successes that they are. So being said, coming into tomorrow, it will be interesting. I think tomorrow is going to bring volatility. We had the scare with both Fed members coming in saying that asset purchasing was going to stop. And they were pretty hawkish about that. Again, Powell's iterated a couple different ways of doing that without actually stopping bond purchasing. They can stop some. There are other different assets they can stop purchasing, which would help alleviate some. Again, I think the way Powell will approach it is he will take a small nibble off of it to include possibly a double rate hike on the next FOMC meeting. Again, that you still got more than a month and a half away before that even happens. You'll have big earnings before that hits, but it could be another catalyst to pull us back down. Again, I think this, if we start getting some good earnings from the banks will kind of tell us what's going on, and then we'll start getting Netflix, and so we'll start seeing some of these earnings what is actually happening. If they start doing good, we're going to start seeing all-time highs if we don't beforehand. And then from that point, of course, we'll have normal pullbacks and stuff like that, in my opinion. But we'll definitely have to see how that plays out tomorrow. I do think there will be continued selling because of the fear that the Fed put in about the assets not being bought. So the market might try to price some of that in. That's what people are saying. I don't really know about that. They knew it was going to happen. It's more of a bullish catalyst, short-term pullback kind of thing is what I'm looking at. I don't see us revisiting this level down here at the 41.75 mark. I just don't see that happening. I see us. I've been talking about trying to come back down to this essentially 45, a little bit lower than that 4,500 mark, and then potentially going for all-time highs leading into earnings is kind of what I'm looking at. Now it could be, could not be. Again, the market will change. What your opinion is about it, what my opinion is about it, doesn't matter. It's how the market in general feels about it. So you may need overnight digestion tomorrow. But the biggest thing is if it comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that report comes out, you're not going to have a follow-up with Powell or anything like that. It's just going to be insights into the last FOMC meeting, which could hold some weight. We really have to see. But ultimately, again, just reiteration of Powell. We're not going to hear from Powell for another month and a half. So I really don't think any of this is there's nothing going to be new generated from this. But again, perhaps some very short-term volatility that might pull us down a little bit. But aside from that, something we needed, like I've said, because we've had such a parabolic move coming into it. So nonetheless, looking forward to that tomorrow. Again, watching those really key levels, possibly even that 44.85 mark. Could again even come back down to the 4,400 mark. Could be a possibility. I don't see that kind of move happening all in one day. I don't think there's a big enough catalyst to do that. But again, you never know. It's really how the market takes it. But even if we hit that, it's still bullish in my mind because of this massive move that we had coming up to it. And then that would essentially set us up for earnings, again, to continue up. And you want us to be retesting old resistance to become more bullish overall in a sense. So that's what I got for the index tomorrow. Bitcoin still looking very strong, still holding that level. Again, as long as it can hold that 4,500 mark, I think we're very strong. We broke out of this range, and we're kind of just retesting that range. It's wicking out of that range, which is good to see. I think it's only a matter of time when just crypto and the market in general are going to start ripping back up essentially for the remainder of the year, unless something else changes. Again, you have to remember too that we do have the Fed in a month and a half, which I think will give us a pullback. And then normally around October is kind of a down month anyway, where we get a pretty nice correction just before we get kind of the Christmas rally. So that's kind of how the year plays out. So we'll have to see. But I think this will be the last nice dip before then, at least until May. And then we might get another little dip, and then we'll continue up, pushing up. So it's always good to look at the higher time frames to kind of see that. But now coming in tomorrow, and something I always talk about, anytime we dip, you want to be looking for very strong stocks, especially going into earnings. The ones that are going to win, your Teslas, Apples, Googles, or some real prime candidates that you want to be looking back and see how far we can pull back. For Tesla really needs to break the 1064 mark. If we could break 1064, we're going to gap fill back down to the 1K. If we could get around 1K, would be perfect for earnings. I think that would be a great entry point, and kind of really what I'm looking at. Again, I don't know if that's even a possibility with Tesla, but considering people might be again scared of inflation, depending how the market digests it tomorrow, we might get a little initial move. But if we break below this tomorrow, if we gap down for some reason tomorrow, and we start filling this gap, I'm definitely looking for that entry there. UPST is the ones I've always been talking about. It's been holding that 100 mark really well. Break below that, you're kind of looking more at the possibly the 80 mark to kind of test that bottom channel here. But I don't think we're going to go that low. I think it's pushing it for UPST to get below 100, Again, it's not impossible, but I think with the way it's done on earnings, I think the base has really been that 100. So if this continues to hold into tomorrow, I'll be looking to grab this as well, and then looking for that breakout on the wedge, which again, I think if we get any kind of positive market likes what they hear tomorrow, it could break us over this wedge, and then we start ripping again, at least to possibly that 150 mark. I think could be a strong possibility. So that's what I'm looking at there. Shop, again, another big one I've been talking about. It's getting this huge consolidation box. It's been doing it for a while. So I think really what this is waiting for is earnings. It says earnings on 27th. Again, this question mark. It's just a guesstimation of when it's going to be at. Thinking more early, the first week of May, possibly. But if earnings do good, because Amazon normally does report first. If Amazon reports good, Shop could get a very explosive move out of here. But still watching that 748. If it breaks that, I think we got a lot of headroom to start running there. So I want to keep this one on watch. Again, if it breaks below 670, I could possibly revisit that 590. Again, it's Shop. I don't really understand how it had taken such a beating. It's been taking one of the worst beatings, but I think once this thing starts going, it's going to really start ripping. So, and why I want to keep it on very close watch. Twitter, everything going on with Elon. There's even talk that just because of the position size that Elon has, that he could be elected as a director. So, as acting director. So what could be interesting here is that going to turn this around? You got a key level here at essentially the 48 mark. If it doesn't break the 48 mark, we can continue ripping back up. But again, if it breaks that, you got a huge gap that this thing is going to close. So to the downside, again, if it breaks that 48, I could definitely short it from that point. Again, it's just purely hype in Elon. And I know Elon has a cult following. You have to be very careful with something like this because, again, if it breaks, that's a big gap fill to fill there. So just be mindful of that and see where that goes. But Google is another one. Google has really been pretty choppy for the most part, which I don't really like. And when it starts selling, it really kind of just butters through a lot of support. So you have to be careful of that. Like for me, I think I would be more likely, or I'd really like a 2672 entry on this. Again, psychological level 2700 would probably hold pretty well. And I know there's other daily support here, but with Google, it, like I just said, it butters through support pretty quickly, especially when the market turns for whatever reason, because even on earnings, it does extremely well. But again, if you're looking for a dip, and if you can possibly get 2669, I think it'd be awesome. Again, your 2700 mark, but one I think you should really be watching. Chips have really been taking a beating. Not really messing with that until they turn. I'd be careful with chips because there's more sanctions as well. So every time new sanctions come out, chips are getting hit pretty hard. So you got to be mindful of that. But that's pretty much what I got. I don't want to make this video too long. I think tomorrow is solely waiting on what comes of those meeting notes. As soon as we get our answers there, we'll get a direction in the market. So wait for that. Be patient. Don't rush it. I'm sure there'll be a move in the morning. And then aside from that, we'll wait and see what the notes bring. And then from that point, let the market digest it. So give it 30 minutes, an hour, 40 minutes to digest what's going on. Because when it initially comes out, you're going to get a lot of confusion. It's going to jump back and forth, and then you might actually get a movement. So that being said, remember to hit the like button. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.